Hi, it's Hazel and welcome to my channel. For those of you that are regular viewers, and thank you so much for that, you may be seeing this green book and thinking, oh my goodness, enough with the masterboards already. And if in fact you feel that way, please say so gently in the comments. If on the other hand, you're willing to hear me out and see kind of what my intention is, and in an upcoming video talking about how to use them and what next, then say that as well. Without you here, I have been on a bit of a tear trying to get through some of the boxes, baskets, bins that surround me, and also fill up this book. You know that the other day when we worked on, when we worked on this one, I said that I just had a few more pages to fill the book. Well, I was determined to fill it. So let me bring you up to date on what I've been doing. So way back, I had all these pale botanical type images and that I had gotten from a book, margins. And so rather than throw them out, even though the paper is quite glossy or semi-gloss, I wanted to use them. So I just scattered them around on a masterboard. I also came across, where is that pile? And I've told you this before, that in the beginning, okay, so a person hears the word junk journal, and we know that algorithms will do, search engines and so on. Who is it going to drive a new person to? Well, somebody that's got millions, hundreds and tens of thousands of subscribers. Someone like Pam at the Paper Outpost, or Gail Augustinelli. Anyway, so I started buying digitals like there was no tomorrow. And I also equally had the bad habit of printing multiple pages of the same darn kit. So, and obviously at some point I tore all around these fairies because they're so darn cute. So look at how big this stack still is, and you'll see how many I used. So I thought, okay, time to use those fairies, time to add another layer to some of these masterboards. So that's what I did. Now, you'll notice that on here, they've got the name of the flower. I didn't like that look, but of course I saved the name. So later today, I'm going to be playing Name That Flower and hope I can match up. But of course, I have this as my answer key. I will be figuring out where to put them. So that page is done. Now this, obviously, this also came out of a book that had really quite weird illustrations. And you can see a couple of tops of heads there. But I like the brick and kind of stone. So I did this as quite a neutral background. And of course, it's easy enough to cover up that horseshoe and their heads and whatever that is, maybe a sleeve or something. So at some point, when I come across the right items in my quest to use stuff up, that's another thing. I am in the process of resurrecting my hashtag and adding more videos to my playlist called Use It, Don't Store It. So, hopefully there will be some information there or some videos there that you will be able to, adopt into your own practice if you want to. So again, if I haven't already sold you on the value and the benefit of doing masterboards, hopefully, well, either you're too far gone or I just haven't been compelling enough in my praise of masterboards. But I hope to change your mind because I really think they're great for scrap busting. They're great for saving time in the studio and so on. So in this book, we obviously have different stages of completion. So you may know that I, in my Etsy shop and in my Maker's Market shop, sell vegetable dyed. So this is the purple cabbage and or blueberry dyed paper, piano roll paper. So as I'm making up those packages, I always have scrap pieces. So I thought, okay, what am I saving those for? Use it, don't store it. So this background I've had for a while. It's just basically numbers and columns and you know, those sorts of pages. Here's some beautiful numbers along here. I've got them going in either direction. So I thought, okay, I've got several of the fairies that have a blue tone to them. Why don't I combine them with the blue of this piano paper? So, and we'll see how our time goes. Hopefully, that was my intention when I turned the camera on. We will, rip a page out, cut this into sixths, obviously, and see what happens next. So there's that. Then I had this, is that Italian? In questo modo, I would say Italian, paper that had this lovely pinkish edge. And I had tried to preserve some of those edges when I had done the base for this page. And then I just picked these flower fairies that had a pinkish reddish background. And you'll notice that when I ripped these, I made them rectangles. So last night, I was fussy tearing. Now, at some point, is it right now, perhaps? I might pick, this would be, what's that one with honey in the name? I don't know if that's the right, maybe this is too, it's starting to, you see, it's just knocking back that white a bit. But of course, that could be done at any point. But I'm just showing that if you think that's a bit white against this, paper, it's possible to adjust that. And another thing, okay, remind me that I also talked about chalk. You've seen that one before. Okay, so this one, I didn't add anything after the video. I had a few other pieces in the running, but I didn't think they were necessary, so I left them out. Then I had those awful, I should stop saying that, because they do have their place in the craft room. I had those very bright frames. So I didn't want to use them as is because they were rather big. So I just, got the 4, ripped them so that I had 4 pieces from each frame. And because this page already had some yellow on it, I used some of them here. I used those 2 hearts. I used the pinker ones here. There were 2 different styles of pink here. And, no, same style, just that some had a whiter border and I just didn't feel like fussy cutting around it. So again, another layer, another level of interest. You saw me do this, and again, this is another one of those cases where, using a light pink bit of ink or chalk would help make that more cohesive. I also said, and again, if I wouldn't have been pressed for time because I was doing a video, I would have fussy cut around those, like these butterflies. Anyway, you can see that already unifies it a bit more. And I did promise that one day we would use gesso on one of these as well. So then I still had a pile of teeny weeny blush pink scraps. So, and you can see by how many variations there are. You know, 1 inch by 1.5 inch pieces. I got those all down. And then also in my, where is it? Pile of pre-printed digitals, I had a bunch of these and I absolutely love them. I don't remember whose kit they are, but if you look very carefully, you will see that when I printed this, of course, did I check it after the first page? No. There was obviously a blocked nozzle on my printer. So I've got these lines. Now, again, because I seem compelled to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, I told you that. Now, you may have believed that, oh, that's just what the design is like. But I know the difference, and I wouldn't have wanted to use this in another application. That's why these things are still sitting here. So I used them in the master board thinking, but knowing that much of that will be covered up by something else. Now, fix this in your mind as opposed to, well, that. So this is when we begin to see our preferences for, do I have a good example? Our preferences for how we want our master boards to look. I love this one, and I know that when I did it and showed it to you, many of you loved it as well. So there is more structure, less busyness to some of these layouts than to obviously something like this that has a gazillion tiny pieces. This is kind of very much a shotgun type approach where you've got shotgun pellets everywhere. However, it serves a purpose in that even the itty-bittiest little things get used up. So then, because I had printed so many pages of this kind of stuff, I used them all here. Again, very busy. So when the time, I don't have anything to show you, I'm sure. Well, maybe I do. So at some point, when a focal point is added, it's going to have to be pretty stripped down or pretty, I don't know. It's going to have to be pretty plain. And these are just some things that I have put aside here. Because, I mean, our heads would explode if we added much more busyness and pattern to this. So we're going to need some solid, more solid looking elements. Another thing that could work there is picking up on some color. I don't have that and I don't want to look for it. You know, like say one of those huge peonies that I have printed. That would pick up on the pinks and it would be a huge focal point that would draw the eye and not add to the busyness of this. So, again, as I'm looking through the piles of things around me, I realized that I had taken the cover off a 1982 World Atlas. And you can see how big this is. 13 by 9.5. And the paper, oh my goodness, the paper. It is so gorgeous, and I can see why I put it aside. So today I further ripped into it, and I grouped, well, I took as a whole all the pieces, all these first pages of, you know, stats and whatever about the different continents. I also removed 1/4 of an inch, well, not quite, of these index pages. If you know me at all, you know that I love these index pages. I love them especially with a napkin decoupaged on top of it. So I've kept all of those intact. And then this chunk is all map pages. And you can see that it's very detailed and fine. Like some of these place names are, you know, what, a 3 or 4 font size. So I went through the pages and I ripped out, I forgot to count, maybe 4 or 5 pages with certain colors, concentration of certain colors. So blues, I like this because of the topographical, like those are mountain ranges, I guess. With the intention, now it doesn't look like it now, but with the intention of, well, 2 things. Filling this book, 3 things. Filling the book, using up those beautiful papers, and laying the groundwork for projects that will ultimately, probably, end up in a peacock journal. So I know it doesn't look very peacocky to you yet, but trust me. So I tried to do a variation here. You can see that some of the, no, that's all one piece. I used huge pieces compared to that one that I showed you in pink. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. That's a quick way to do a masterboard. I will also say that if I'm starting out with, you know, just a book page or whatever substrate I'm working on, I will, with a pencil, make light marks at intersection points or at the corners, and then apply the glue to that versus the thing that I'm gluing down. And that works great in a scenario like this, especially when you've got a huge surface to cover. And it also is really helpful if the paper is somewhat fragile. Now, on this, I'll point out that I used the blues. Well, I guess this is an exception. I tried to keep some of the more desirable colors to the outer edges because imagine this being cut up into something. Chances are that those colors will stay visible. If this becomes a journaling card, chances are the focal point will be somewhere over here, not up in the corner. So more of the desirable color will be shown, and, you know, probably the yellow will be covered. Now, because I have, even though this book has sewn in signatures, because I have removed some pages in the past, I was a little overzealous, and this page came out of the book. And the reason I didn't glue down these last few pieces is because I wanted to show you that in this case, I used this huge 1 piece of paper in smack dab in the middle. I've never done that before. Thinking, okay, I will fill in around the perimeter. I think I get away with it because there's color variation and a variety of, there's interest because, again, the way, the design on the paper. So again, to save some time, I pre-cut the last few pieces, whoops, that will finish this page off. So I'll just quickly glue those things down. Oh, I also found these glossy pages out of a book that I had deconstructed probably 2 or 3 years ago. And, whoops. And I thought, okay, I kept them obviously to use as glue pages because they really don't have any other use to me. Whoopsie, slide that baby over. So I will be glad to get rid of those as well. I also used to save, catalogs and, unattractive magazines to use as glue books. I guess the issue there is that it's quite a big thing that I need to have room on my desk for, and that sometimes isn't entirely possible. Oops, not that. Okay, what was I planning here? I was probably going to, oh, maybe I was going to do that. So I'll put the green one down first, I guess. So I hope that if you haven't already done so, that you find a book and join me in creating a bunch of masterboards, because it is so satisfying for all those reasons that I told you already. Don't care for that yellow covering up that. I think I'm going to remove, and luckily on most of these maps you can actually follow the latitude and longitude lines and get a pretty straight line without having to do much figuring. And except on those pages where, the Earth is a circle, or is a ball, I mean, where you've got the curvature of the Earth and the lines become a little more abstract or not as reliable. Let's do it this way. We'll cover up a minimum of this little island here. And we will call that baby done. Now, 22 minutes. I think we can afford to go a little further. So what I'm going to do now is turn to one of those fairy pages. Maybe I'll do them all. I'll rip them all out. So one. Now this, of course, is why the structure of the book gets compromised. I think I probably showed this in a past video, but I love this. And at some point there will be, a plan for using it and dealing with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, let me get rid of these map bits. And of course I have to come up with some other ideas for using the rest of that atlas, because the paper is just too luscious to, leave on its own. Okay. So let me pull up my big paper cutter, because of course the little one isn't big enough. And let's figure out how to, whoopsie, I took my mat off. I guess I'll leave it. I was going to say, I guess I don't need it, but I kind of do. Oh, and look, book guts too from the atlas. Those words. Okay, this whole thing doesn't really fit on my desk, so you'll have to just trust me that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. So typically I would want to find the straightest edge. And I'm just going to, I guess I should be doing it on the right side though, so I can see what's what. So sometimes, you know, especially when you're using a book, you can't get, because of the, you know, the gutter, you can't get quite close enough. So I begin by just squaring off the entire piece of paper. There is a bit extending past here, but that's going to, I'm not taking the time to trim that with scissors first because it's not that, it's not really a factor. So once I have a nice straight edge, I then use that edge as my starting point. So here I'm going to, like, I didn't go to all this trouble to cut, you know, 1.5 inches off. So at this point, I'm just cutting sort of the bare minimum to give me a nice clean edge. On this side, I will take more because I've got some breakage there and, you know, a tear in the book page and so on. So at this point, if I were to cut it there, my whole thing ends up being 10.5. Now 10.5, well, that would be great. That's divisible by 3, right? 3.5, 7, perfect. And I think that's good. So said that 3.5 is the right measurement here. So let's see. We don't want to cut any fairies in half. I didn't bother, you know, pre-measuring anything when I was gluing these girls down. Okay, so that's 3.5 there. So I'm going to cut there. And let's see how it works out here. And there. Now, if this page didn't have these fairies as focal points, very separate, distinct focal points, I may have chosen a different way to cut up the sheet. Because the paper is, you know, big, I could have obviously done some belly bands or whatever. In this case, no go. Now, I don't think I really, so obviously I didn't line them up on the horizontal grid. So let's see what we have here. So it's 11 inches tall, which means what happens if I go 5.5? Well, in this case, I almost cut that little red line off, which I don't want. So I think I'm going to cheat a bit. Who needs it more? I think this bottom girl needs it more. You probably can't see that. If I do this here, can you see? Yeah, maybe this is better. A little harder for me, but better for you. Okay, so I'm going to cut it there so that little red, so that little red strip goes with this girl. Or boy. That could be a boy. You know what I didn't do? I didn't back these. Sometimes that's a good thing to do while it's still in the book. Clearly, I forgot about that step. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do here. Oops, again, I'll show you here. So we'll just go 5.5 here because 6 1/2 doesn't the other. There really isn't much red on either of these pieces. And the final one, 5.5. I'm going to cheat slightly so that this little fancy corner here goes with the bottom girl. So just review and show you what we ended up with. Now, once these are backed, you know, I might have to put them under my sad iron just to flatten them out a bit. So maybe I'll just quickly cut up the other 2 pages and then get rid of this cutter. Okay, that's not so bad. Yeah, I'll use that as my, just taking just a sliver, a tiny little sliver off. And I have to take a bit more off this side because of the way the paper is. And I also want to get rid of common diseases of swine. Ah, dear. It takes so little to amuse me. And third side. Oh, I should try to be aiming. How come? Oh, no, it was the other way. I was going to say, how come it's so much longer? But I guess I will do the same as I did on the other page. Make it 11 tall, 10.5 wide. So, this side was good. So again, we're doing 3.5. Sorry for all the clunking. And 3.5. And I don't worry too much. I mean, the math worked out this way this time, but that doesn't look the same. What the heck? Ay, ay, ay. So clearly I did something different on this page. Just made my point. So what did I do wrong? 3.5. 3.5. So why is this one wider? Oh, maybe I took more off on the other. Okay, I'm going to just, for simplicity's sake and easier stacking, I'm going to take 1/2 inch off here. I took more off on that other sheet because there was a tear in it. So again, we'll do the 5.5. I'll show you what we end up in a second. Oh, I started to say that the math worked out the way it did on this size paper, but typically you can't really count on that. So I let it be whatever it is, and I don't really care if everything is a different size because, frankly, we have different sized pockets and so on. Okay, so at this point, I should be aiming for 10.5, but yeah, that should be okay. That seems like an awful lot to cut off, but here we'll just take, the top is good, so I'm just going to take that bit off. This side just has that little, oh, maybe I'll just quickly do that as well. Again, just Sometimes when it's so little, you almost have to go in with scissors to... Okay, so we're doing 3.5. And 3.5. And again, there's nothing magical, or at least in my opinion, there's nothing magical about this size that I'm using here. So if when push comes to shove and it's time to actually decorate these, they could still be trimmed down. I am not that keen on tag shapes. So I might have to, let's get rid of this. I might have to change my opinion slightly on that in a case where, and again, they're not decorated, but in a case like this where I've got quite a bit of not very interesting stuff going on in the upper corners. So in that case, and I'm sure you've all seen this before, I would use my little template here. I have 4 different angles of corners, so I would figure out which is the, maybe I could go with the deepest one. Oh, that is the deepest one. And cut those off. Now, I don't want this video to go as long as the others have been, so let's just quickly look at this, and we're going to call it a video. Maybe I'll just show them to you page by page. Now, because I didn't do any pre-measuring when I was gluing those kids down, you know, some of the spacing is a bit suspect here. So, for instance, and again, this is me being anal. On these two, I don't like, and I've said this before in collage and art journal videos, I never want my people to be looking outside of the picture plane. So this layout would be a heck of a lot better if she was closer to the right-hand side. Then we could assume that she's looking at something that's going to appear here as opposed to, you know, who knows where. This, on the other hand, is a good one because she's more to the left and she's looking right. But that's where I reserve the right to, you know, maybe make it skinnier, and then that becomes less annoying to me. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I will probably trim these before you ever see them again, and I will be cutting the corners off on these. Again, not the greatest background in my opinion, but we're going to make something good out of it. So the same is probably going to be true here. I just randomly ran those 3 strips of dyed piano paper. So this one is good. There's all that room for that kid to be looking that way. That's not bad. The kid is looking straight ahead, straight ahead. This is okay. This is okay. So, you know, these tend to be a bit better. Now, if I start fooling around with future design decisions here and find out that, you know, that's too much space, I, again, reserve the right to either shorten it or, you know, figure something out. Now, of course, I did say that I'm going to be adding the flower names to the thing. Now here, that looks, again, out of proportion. However, in perhaps another video, I don't know. I guess tell me, do you want me to see me decorate these in a video? Not every single one, of course. Or do you just want to see them once they're done? Because obviously I have to round up quite a few supplies to make this. See, this is okay. The kid's looking that way. This one is centered. This one is all right. She's more to the left than the right. Centered, centered. Not the greatest. So, again, it's not the end of the world. There's nothing so exciting over here. So if I were to trim this here, then this becomes more like a side tuck or a corner tuck. So then I decorate it accordingly. Oh, another thing I'll do before coming back is, you know, doing some of that. Oh, and I said I'd use chalk too. You were supposed to remind me to use chalk. So, okay, so I'll leave the ball in your court. Tell me, do you want to see me decorate some of these in a video? Or do you want me to just show them all done in follow-up Friday type video? And I will bow to your wishes. Thank you so much for being here. I will remind you, yes, I can still remind you to look for the video that says announcement for channel subscribers. Follow the orders and you may end up being a winner. Just saying. What else? What else do you need to know? Oh, there will be a video that oh no, you'll have seen it before you see this one, so scratch that. Anyway, yeah, let me know your wishes and I will aim to please. Thanks, guys. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do that. Give me a thumbs up, write a comment, and live happily ever after. Thanks, guys. Bye.